Okay, pwede na po mag-start. First group po.
Okay, hello, good morning everyone. Naririnig po ba ako? Pasensya na po sa nangyari kanina, di ko po alam. Naka-open yung mic ko. So ayun, bago po tayo mag-start, make sure na ready na po tayong lahat makinig tsaka wala na po tayong kung ano nung ginagawa. And ayun, so I will give you a few minutes to para makapag-prepare, no? Inom muna kayo ng tubig, ayusin niyo muna sarili ninyo. And then mag-start na tayo, no? So at exactly 1:43 siguro 1:45 magi-start tayo, no? So pagpatak ng 11:45 pala, 11:45, 'no, magi-start na tayo. So make sure na makabalik kayo agad. So ayun lang, inom muna kayo ng tubig tapos ayusin niyo muna sarili niyo. Tapos make sure na ready na makinig. Okay, thank you. Okay, hello ulit sa lahat. No, I hope na ready na po tayong makinig. Mag-start na po kami. So, good morning everyone, no? We are group 3 and we're here to present the topic about anthropology, no? So, have you ever wondered what truly makes us human, no? Napatanong na ba kayo sa sarili niyo ng ganun? Is it our ability to communicate, create cultures, or perhaps adapt to diverse environments, no? So, today we'll explore about anthropology, no? So anthropology is the science that seeks to answer these profound questions by studying humanity in all its dimension, no? So what is anthropology? Okay, anthropology in its definition, no, is the comprehensive study of humans, including their biological traits, cultural practices, evolution, behaviors, and language. It seeks to uncover patterns of human diversity across time and space. No? So take note of this, guys, no. Kapag ka nagcha-choppy ako or hindi niyo ako medyo marinig, pakisabi na lang, no, para maiwasan natin yung hindi pagkakaintindihan. Okay, so anthropology is more than just studying ancient artifacts, no, or evolutionary diagrams. It is a comprehensive field that examines human life through biological, culture, linguistic, and archaeological lenses, no. So, by doing so, it allows us to uncover patterns of human diversity across time and space. Okay. This field intersects rather with other disciplines like philosophy, exploring human existence, sociology, understanding societies, history, examining the past, and biology, or studying the human evolution and genetics. Now, this intersection makes anthropology a holistic study of humanity. So what's fascinating about anthropology is how anthropology intersects with these various other disciplines, no? For instance, it aligns with philosophy, no, in exploring human existence, for sociology in understanding the societies, history in examining the past, and biology in studying evolution and genetics, no? So this makes anthropology a truly holistic study of humanity nga. Okay, next. Okay, so we have subfields of anthropology, no? So let's delve into its four main subfields. Okay. So I want you to take note of this, no? So we have four different subfields of anthropology. So let's first start with cultural anthropology. So what is cultural anthropology, no? So from its definition, it is the study of human cultures, norms, and practices. It is a major division of anthropology that uses the methods, concepts, and data of archaeology, ethnography, ethnology, folklore, and linguistics in its description and analysis of the diverse cultures of the world. Now, so that is cultural anthropology, no? This focuses on human cultures, norms, and practices. Okay? So, anthropologists, no? Yun yung mga taong nag-i-study about anthropology, no? Yun yung tawag sa kanila. Anthropologists in this field study diverse ways of life using methods like ethnography and folklore, no? Like for example, there's a study about Bronislaw, no? So yung ang kanyang fieldwork sa Trobriand Island. So later meron tayong example niyan, mamaya explain natin 'yan. So ang nangyari doon, yung mga islander na 'yon, no? So tungkol ang sabi ni mamaya na 'yan, mamaya pa 'yan eh. Next next na. Next na tayo. Mamaya na natin ipaliwanag. Mamaya na tayo lumalim doon, baka tumagal pa tayo. So next, so physical anthropology, no? So based from its definition, no, it involves the study of exploring human evolution, biology, and genetics. Okay, so this branch of anthropology is where physical anthropologists work broadly on three major sets of problems, no? The biological basis of human behavior, the primate evolutions of human and non-humans, and the significance of human variation, no? So physical anthropology, it deals with the emphasis on human biology and evolution, no? Okay, so one groundbreaking example about this study about this is the discovery of Lucy, no? At si Lucy, so take note of this, no? She's a 3.2 million year old fossil found by Donald Johansson. Okay, so This discovery shed light on how early humans walked upright long before developing large brains, no? So, ayun. Next, mamaya papakita ko yung mga example na yan. Ay, example yung mga studies pala na yan, yung historical references na yan. Okay, so linguistic anthropology. Dito naman tayo, linguistic anthropology. What is linguistic anthropology, no? It is the study of examining languages' role in shaping cultures and identity. So take note of this. It examines the relationships, similarities, and differences between language, culture, and society, wherein linguistic anthropologists regard language as a form of social action. No? It explores the question how language is one of the ways people create and sustain cultural beliefs, relationship, and identities. So that is linguistic anthropology, no? So language shapes our culture and identity, and linguistic anthropologists study this intricate relationship, no? So for archaeological anthropology, dito naman tayo. From its definition, no, it is the study of unearthing and interpretation of material remains from past cultures. No? It involves the excavation, analysis, and interpretation of artifacts and soils to determine how the cultures of the past functioned, and nothing changes as time went on. Okay, so archaeological anthropology involves the excavation and analysis of material like remains, no? For example, sites like Pompeii, no, it provides insights into ancient daily life, no? And while discoveries like yung tomb ni Tutankhamun, no, it reveals the grandeur and beliefs of ancient Egypt, no. So that provides us a deeper understanding on their culture, no, kung anong meron sila noon. Okay? These subfields help anthropologists tackle big questions, no, such as what connects us as humans and what set us apart, no. Okay, next. So we have the key concepts of anthropology pala. Okay, key concepts of anthropology, no. So first we have the cultural relativism, no. So take note of this, guys, ha. Cultural relativism is the idea that cultural practices and norms should be understood within their own context, without judgment or comparison to other cultures, no. Its significance promotes understanding and reduces bias. So take note of this. Cultural relativism promoted by Franz Boas rather, encourages understanding cultural practices within their own context rather than judging them by one's cultural standards. No? So I hope naiintindihan niyo kung anong gustong ipahiwatig niya. Okay? Boas used this approach to debunk ethnocentric biases that portrayed non-European societies as inferior. No? Cultural relativism helps anthropologists interpret practices as meaningful within the culture they study. Okay? So cultural relativism, no, it was promoted by Franz Boas. Okay? So this concept teaches us to understand cultural practices within their own context, no? It reduces biases and fostering respect for diversity, no? So yun yung cultural relativism. Okay, for ethnocentrism, next. Okay, ethnocentrism, no? Meron tayong tao dito sa gilid. Pangalan niya si William Graham Sumner, no? This concept details the tendency of the human person to evaluate other cultures based on one's own cultural standards, no? The term ethnocentrism was first coined by William Graham Sumner. So ito siya yung nasa left left side na tao na picture, no? So ayan yung itsura niya. In 1906 daw, were discussed the concept of between group fighting, wherein he believed that warfare was due to ethnocentrism and xenophobia of the parties involved. Ethnocentrism is the tendency to view one's own culture as superior and others are lesser. So, yun, ayun daw yung main ano ng ethnocentrism, no? It is the tendency to view one's own culture as superior to others or lesser. So, kumbaga, ang ethnocentrism daw, yung pagiging mapagmataas ng isang culture no, sa ibang kultura. So, kumbaga, ayun nga. So, you get the idea naman na kung ano yung ibig sabihin nun. Okay? Early anthropological studies often reflected ethnocentric biases, with European cultures being deemed the most advanced. Recognizing ethnocentrism allows anthropologists to approach other cultures without prejudice, striving for objective and respectful research, no? So, ulitin ko lang ulit, yung ethnocentrism, no? It is the tendency to view one's culture as superior, no, than the others. It can hinder the objective understanding of one's culture, no? Recognizing and addressing ethnocentrism allows anthropologists to appreciate the uniqueness rather of every culture. So, yun yung ethnocentrism. Okay, next. I hope you get the idea na sa bawat key concept ng anthropology, Okay, so next, human universals. Okay, these are the common intersecting characteristics, behavior, or traits shared across cultures, no? So take note of that. It highlights the shared human experiences despite cultural diversities. Anthropologist George Peter Murdoch cataloged cross-cultural traits that are found in all human societies, such as family structures, language, and taboos. Identifying human universals helps anthropologists understand which aspect of human experience are culturally specific and which are shared across societies, no? So, human diversities tuloy. Human universals pala, no? Despite our differences, no, there are shared traits, no, across cultures like yung family structures daw, family rituals, yung mga nakasanayan na natin na mga norms, ganun. Understanding this universals rather, understanding these universals provides insights into what it means to be human. So, in a certain society. Next. And symbolic anthropology. This concept examines how symbols, rituals, and myths shape cultural meaning, no? Influenced by Clifford Geertz ba yan? O, basta kung paano i-pronounce yung pangalan niyan, basta Geertz, tawagin natin siya si Geertz, Clifford Geertz, who emphasized interpreting cultural symbols to understand societal values, no? So Clifford's work on symbolic anthropology emphasizes that cultural practices, rituals, and symbols hold deep meanings daw. Yun ang sabi niya. So take note of that, no? His famous analysis of Balinese cockfighting showed that such activities can reflect broader cultural values like social status and conflict, no? Symbolic anthropology views culture as a web of meanings that can be read through symbols. So, uh, so yung symbolic anthropology it highlights the importance of symbols in a certain or in a specific culture, no? For example, his study of Balinese cockfighting, it showed how much events reflect societal values like social status and conflict. Okay, next. Ito na, specific key studies and historical examples rather na ng different subfields of anthropology, no? Okay, so first, in cultural anthropology, ito nga yung sinasabi ko, yung kay Bronislaw Malinowski, no? Yung fieldwork niya about the Trobriand Islanders. Okay, so in the early 20th century, no, fieldwork among the Trobriand Islanders, no, in present day, ito na yung tinatawag na Papua New Guinea. Is a cornerstone rather in cultural anthropology, no, kasi he observed and documented the Kula exchange, no. So yung Kula exchange, ito yung ceremonial exchange ng shell necklace, no, and armbands among islands. Okay, so this ritual exchange daw illustrated how non-monetary value, reciprocity, and symbolism function to reinforce societal bonds and maintain peace between these islands, no? Yun nga. His approach set a precedent of immersive fieldwork where anthropologists live within a culture to gain deeper insights, no? So, yun yung cultural anthropology, no? So, you get the idea na kung ano siya. Next. Next. So, same lang naman yan ng sa kanina. Okay, physical anthropology, no? It's a key study about the physical anthropology, no? So, we have the discovery of Australopithecus afarensis, no? Or yung si Lucy, yun nga yung tinatawag na si Lucy. Ito yung, basta yung unggoy siya na ano, alam niyo yung movie na Lucy, yung may unggoy sa bandang dulo ng movie. So, yun yun, no? By Donald Johansson in 1974, no? Donald Johnson discovered Lucy, a 3.2 million year old fossil of Australopithecus afarensis in Ethiopia. Lucy provided critical evidence for understanding human evolution, showing that early hominins walked upright long before they developed larger brains. Okay. This find supported theories that bipedalism was significant adaptation in early human ancestors. Okay, next. Ito yung mga example lang ng mga ng mga key studies and findings saka historical examples ng about the different subfields ng anthropology, Okay, next, so physical anthropology. Ito nga yan, ito yung itsura nun. Replica to ng skull ni Lucy, no? Yan yung itsura niya. Okay, next. Linguistic anthropology naman tayo, no? Okay, so ito we have here Benjamin Lee Whorf tsaka si Edward Sapir, no? So medyo familiar na rin kayo sa mga apelyido nila, no? As the Sapir-Whorf theory or hypothesis, no? Benjamin Lee Whorf's hypothesis of linguistic relativity, no? Working in the mid-20th century, he developed the theory of linguistic relativity, suggesting that language shapes how people perceive and interpret the world, no? His research on the Hopi languages concept of time, which differed significantly from English, suggested that language influences thought processes. So take note of that. This became part of the broader Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, which argues that language affects worldview. So yun yung sabi nila. Okay, so si Edward Sapir naman, no, mentor to Whorf, no, he also contributed to the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, no, by examining the interrelationship between language and culture nga. So ayun. Baga they deal about the the language na, no, tsaka yung relationship nito sa kung paano maapektuhan ng language yung perspective ng isang tao sa buong mundo, no. So kasi iba-iba naman yung lengguwahe natin, mali iba-iba tayo ng pagkakaunawa sa mga bagay-bagay. Okay, next. I hope na nakikinig pa kayong lahat, kasi may pa-quiz kami mamaya. So take note of every important details kasi kasama sa quiz yan. Okay, for archaeological anthropology na tayo. So last na to, no. Yung tulad ng sinabi ko kanina, yung excavation at Pompeii, no. So familiar naman na kayo kung ano yung Pompeii, kung ano yung nangyari diyan. Pompeii is an ancient Roman city buried by the eruption of Mount Vesuvius, no, in 79 AD. It have revealed well-preserved buildings, artifacts, and human remains, no? So it deals with the archaeological anthropology nga. So about human remains, materials of the past. Okay? So the site no, offers insights into Roman daily life, social structures, art, and the effects of sudden catastrophic events on a community. Archaeologists use these findings to understand ancient urban life and disaster impact, no? So you get the idea na. Okay, next. So ito isa lang din tong historical example about archaeological anthropology, no? So it was the unearthing of Tutankhamun's tomb in 1922, no? It was discovered by Howard Carter, in the Egypt's Valley of Kings. This was a significant archaeological discovery back then, because the tomb was largely intact, providing extensive artifacts that illuminated Egyptians' burial practices. So it explains, or it gives the modern civilization the idea of how Egyptian practices their so burials, like yung paano nila gustong i-preserve yung katawan ng isang nila, pharaoh, ganun, no? Okay, next. Ayan, isa lang na example yan. Yan yung mami ni Tutankhamun. Next po. Next. So ayan. We're here na sa other anthropologists, no? So this will be discussed by my group mates, no? So thank you everyone for listening. So before we dive into this next topic, no, pakibalik nga po ulit doon sa sa isang sa other anthropologists, no. So doon lang sa may other anthropologists yan. Okay, so may question muna ako kung nakikinig kayong lahat, okay, so isang tanong lang naman to, like, okay, so for example, tatanungin ko kayo, if you were an anthropologist, kung isa kang anthropologist, anong subfield ka magpo-focus tsaka bakit, So ayun, puwedeng pakisagot po sa may chat box natin or mag-raise hand na lang kung puwede. Isang tanong lang, isang sagot, yun lang ta's tapos na. Ta's mag-move forward na tayo. Uulitin ko yung tanong, if you were an anthropologist, which subfield, or kung anong subfield ka magfo-focus, anong subfield yung forte mo na gusto mo, So yun, kung isa kang anthropologist. So yun, hindi kayo nakikinig, Nakikinig sa'kin. Sagot na kayo guys para makapag-move forward na tayo. Physical anthropologist daw si Red, no? So bakit? Bakit, no? Why? Okay, so why? Bakit physical anthropologist? Kasi trip lang. Okay. So si Jeff, bakit cultural anthropologist ang gusto mo, Jeff? Malay ninyo kung hindi kayo nag-engineering, naging anthropologist kayo, Malay niyo may future kayo diyan. Hindi ko sinasabi na mag-drop kayo, Sabi ko lang. Ang galing ng mga kultura. Okay. Okay, okay. So ayan, paano yung iba, wala? Ayaw niyo mag-try? Ayaw niyo i-try na lumipat ng kahit ngayon lang? Wala kayong interest maging anthropologist, no? So ayan. Okay, from Edward Burnett Taylor's definition of culture to Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, on languages and thought anthropology. So this has built a legacy of understanding about human complexities, So those different studies reminds us of the interconnectedness of our biological and cultural evolution. Okay, so to summarize the anthropology, it is not just about the study of humans, humans history, humans past, humans physical composition, or yung humans biology. It is a lens through which we understand our shared past, kasi pare-pareho lang naman tayong mga tao dito. Tayo lang din nagkakaintindihan, So intindihin na lang natin ng isa't isa. Next, so yun nga, our diverse past, our diverse present, and perhaps even predict our collective future, By embracing its principles, we can foster empathy, challenge biases, and appreciate the rich tapestry of human existence, no? So, ayun. Thank you, and I'd be happy to address any questions you might have. So, bago mag-proceed sa other anthropologies, may tanong pa po ba kayo? Wala na. Okay. So, may other group mates, so you can take over na. Thank you.
Hello? Rinig ba audio ko? Hello? Hello? Rinig ba audio ko? Hello?
Rinig ba? Rinig.
Okay, akala ko. Okay, so si Marcel Mauss is a French anthropologist whose academic work is about sociology anthropology. He answered the paradox of how a person can remain the same while they continuously adapt their behavior, appearance, or demeanor based on the environment or people around them. He explained it by having his idea of the self or the person having two halves, which is, from my research, it's pronounced muy and person. My next slide. Okay, basahin ko lang. Muy refers to the person's sense of who he is, his body, his basic identity, and his inborn traits. And while the person is composed of the social concepts of what it means to be, or who he is, or what it means to live in a particular institution, family, a particular religion, nationality, and how to behave the given expectations and influences from other sources. For example, me is how you see yourself. It can be expressed through the work you produce, or I guess how you present yourself. The me has no need for external validation validation to exist, while the person can be how you act to on your work or on other people. For example, as a teacher, there are certain characteristics that's needed to be considered a good teacher. The person reflects the differences on how you treat other people. So, in short, the me gives the continuity of a person's sense of identity, while the person allows for the flexibility of the person to adapt to various roles and environments. Though the person can change, its main identity is still anchored to what the me is. Okay, next slide. Hello. Next na ulit. Okay. So after studying non-Western societies, he proposed the idea of the total social phenomenon, which is an idea that tackles every sector in a community or society should cooperate to have a well-balanced living. It refers to the social practices or events that involves multiple aspects of society simultaneously, such as economics, law, religion, politics, and social events. Okay, next speaker.
Yan. Am I audible po? Oh, yes. Okay. So, heart react naman kayo kung gising pa kayo dyan. Alam ko nakakaantok yung tanghali, pero guys, gising. Gising. So, our next topic is languages. What is languages? Can anybody answer what is language? You may raise your hand na lang po. Lah, mga tulog ata. Ayan. Sige po, go.
Language is a medium we use to communicate.
Yan, tama. Wala na po bang magsasagot? Makatulog na sila. Char. So, yan. Sige po, go.
Language is a salient part of culture, playing a crucial role in shaping the
Sabi na ko lang. Sige na nga. Ito, other meanings po is, according to Britannica, language is a system of conventional spoken, manual, written symbols, by means of which human beings, as members of social group and participants in its culture, expresses themselves. Ano pong ano? Magbigay kayo ng example ng manual language. Natulog talaga kayo, guys. Paano na yung quiz namin mamaya? Char. Anyone? Example po ng manual language.
Can you define what manual language is po?
Manual language is that language that you use as a sign. Clue na yun.
Sign language.
Oo, di ba? Gising-gising naman. Then, written symbols po. Any examples? Written symbols? Symbols. Written. Guys, sana ayos pa kayo. Iba yan. Anyone? Yes po, tama. Morse code, dots, lines, alphabets. Pero meron tayong famous dito sa Philippines. Sariling atin siya. Iba.
Baybayin.
Ayan, tama. Baybayin. The functions of language includes communication, the expression of identity, play, imaginative expression, and emotional release. Okay? Language is a salient part of culture, playing a crucial role in shaping the self. May nakakaalam po ba ng meaning ng salient? Anyone po? Nag-google na sila. Oh. Ayan na. Char. You may open your mic na lang po agad.
Importante po.
Yan, tama. Buti pa si Red. Kayo guys, tulog na ata. Effects on self-crafting. 1. A self born into a particular society adjusts according to cultural exposure. Meaning daw po is, example, your hometown. Every hometown naman meron sariling culture, di ba? Kunyari, yung hometown ko, sa ano siya? Sa NCR, sa Caloocan. Tapos we are exposed on religion stuff. Like nagpa-participate kami sa mga fiestas, yung Flores de Mayo. Yan, alam niyo yan, yung mga parade. Tapos yung iba naman, we have those ibang hometown naman, like example, yung mga near sa beaches, may culture sila doon na iba din sa city. So, pag doon ka pinanganak, syempre iba yung kultura mo sa kultura nung nasa ibang lugar, di ba? The number 2 is cultural divide highlights differences in self-perception. Yung cultural, yung culture natin is, ayun yung nagiging self-perception natin. And then yun din yung perception ng ibang tao sa atin. For example, famous to eh. Like, if you live sa sa Cavite, there are those sayings na yung perception nila when your lover comes from Cavite. Like, bruh. Tapos yan. Anyways, interconnection of language and culture. Number 1, a language reflects the culture of its speakers. 2, interacting with the language means interacting with the culture it represents. 3, understanding culture requires direct access to its language. So, gets naman po natin yung idea po ng interconnections of language and culture, right? Then, Let's proceed to the next slide. Language pa din. Learning a new language involves more than just mastering the alphabet, grammar, and vocabulary. It also requires immersing oneself in the culture of the language or region, understanding its customs, behaviors, and traditions. Language is deeply intertwined with culture, making it essential to reference the cultural context to fully grasp the nuances and subtleties of the language. For example, yung English kasi is ano na siya second language na natin siya. And ever since siguro preschool or way back before na hindi pa kayo nagso-start ng school, nandiyan na yung nandiyan na yung English speaking culture natin. So, kung ibang language siya, for example, Korean, kaya lang naman siya naaaral kasi you immerse yourself into their culture. For example, yung K-drama, then your K-pop songs, kaya nyo lang naman siya inaaral kasi gusto nyo ma-immerse sa culture na yon. Pero yung action ng pag-immerse sa culture na yon is nakaka-help din siya to learn something new. Para hindi, para alam nyo yung context ng mga words na ginagamit nyo in their language. The next slide is, yan, si Clifford Geertz. Nabanggit na siya kanina ni Gia ng speaker kanina. Yan. Clifford Geertz is an American anthropologist. His academic work is mainly about interpreting culture. He defined culture as a system of inherited conceptions expressed in symbolic forms by means of which men communicate, perpetuate, and develop their knowledge about and attitudes toward life. So, gets nyo naman siguro yung idea niyang gustong iparating, di ba? Yung culture daw natin is namamana siya. From our ancestors hanggang ngayon, di ba? Meron pa tayong mga culture na still existing. Pero meron ding iba na almost siguro ngayon nakakalimutan na. Siguro, ilan pa ba sa inyo yung nagmamano pag uwi ng bahay? Konti na lang siguro, no? Kasi almost, naks naman kabait. Ang babait nyo naman pala. Yan. Ang dami nila, guys. Tapos yon. Yung mga na yon, symbolic forms na yon, for example, mga gestures. Yan. It's a way to communicate. For example, yung pagmamano nga. It's pagbibigay ng respeto sa nakakatanda sa inyo. The next slide is the impact of concept of culture on the concept of man. Itong itong piece of literature na to, is sinulat to ni Clifford Geertz. Basic premise of how he interpreted culture. Analyzing cultural differences rather than forming vague notions of universal similarities. Number 2, culture reveals the connections between what humans are capable of and how they actually behave. This relationship helps in defining human nature. What is human nature nga pa? Madami kasi siyang meaning, di ba? Like, it could be negative or positive, but we always say na kahit negative siya, it is human nature. Like greed and stuff. Ganon. Sorry guys. Di pa ako makain. Anyways. Culture is the accumulated totality of symbolic patterns. These patterns appear uniquely in different societies over time and space. He uses the concept of thick description, which is a method to analyze the deeper meanings of a cultural practice within a specific context. So gets niyo naman yung concept niya, di ba? Like yung usage ng thick description sa pag-analyze ng mas malalim na kahulugan ng mga cultural practices na. Kasi hindi naman natin siya magiging culture if wala siyang deeper meaning, di ba? For example, yung alam niyo ba guys yung concept ng harana? Kung bibigyan niyo siya ng ng analyzation, you can see na na it is quite on a disadvantage side. Kasi you know how it could be like habang naghaharana yung guy, he could be pretending na ganito siya, ganyan siya to gain the woman's trust. Pero at the same time, dun sa harana na yun, napapakita yung effort nung guy. So, hindi mo siya kayang tansyahin. Like, it has a deeper meaning. Gets nyo ba, guys? Ang tahimik mo. Pero anyways, next na po is yung summary. Sana naman may natutunan kayo. Kanina pa ako nag-ayap dito. According to the anthropological perspective, the self is embedded in our culture. Meaning daw po, sa anthropological, yung self natin is nakadepend siya sa culture natin. Like, kung saan ka lumaki, kung ano yung mga kinalakihan mo na mga gawain ng mga tao sa paligid mo, sa environment mo, kung mabundok ba yan, city yan, or ganyan yan. The number 2, person is composed of the social concepts of what it means to be who he is. Number 3, Moy refers to a person's sense of who he is, his body, and his basic identity, his biological giveness. It is Moy. Language is a salient part of culture and ultimately has a tremendous effect in our crafting of the self. And lastly, culture is a system of inherited conception expressed in symbolic forms by means of which men communicate, perpetuate, and develop their knowledge about and attitudes towards life. So, yun lang po ang report namin sa anthropology. Guess yun naman po yung concept ng anthropology and our anthropologists, right? Medyo madami-dami din sila. So, yun lang. Thank you for listening po. We hope na may natutunan kayo and also kindly answer our quiz po with honesty. Yun lang. Thank you po.
Okay, so I'm sorry. Audible po ba?
Opo.
Okay, so we will start po. We are group 4 and we will be presenting psychology. So as for the lesson proper, I will pass it to Lian.
So, what is psychology? The term psychology itself combines the ancient Greek word psyche, which means soul or mind, and logos, which means studies. While initially focused on the soul, modern psychology, as defined by the American Psychological Association, is the scientific study of the mind and behavior. Using rigorous research methods, psychologists explore the complexities of human thought and behavior, seeking answers to questions like who are we? What makes each of us unique? Why do we act and think the way we do? What influences our choice and reactions? Psychology dives deep into how we learn, remember, interact with others, and make choices. Let's examine the factors that influence our behavior from our early childhood experiences to our current relationships and cultural influences. In essence, psychology helps us understand the power forces that shapes who we are and how we navigate the world.
Hello po. Audible po ba?
Opo.
So, William James was an American philosopher and psychologist. So, siya yung father of American psychology. So, he is one of the earliest psychologists to study the self and conceptualize the self as having two aspects, the I and the me. So, both me and I are first person singular pronouns, which means that they are used by one person to refer himself or herself. So both I and me are first person singular pronouns, meaning they are used by a person to refer himself as. So for example, don't wait for me. I will be gone for a long time. Both of these pronouns indicates the speaker who is me, but they differ in function and representation within the concept of self. The me is social self and I is the response to the me. So the me self as the object pronoun. So the me pronouns as the object in a sentence. It represents the self as it is perceived, shaped, or act upon by others and society. For example, they see me as hardworking. The word me is the object and the verb see. So I as the subject pronoun. The I function as the subject in a sentence. It, it represents the active thinking and spontaneous self that initiates the action. So for example, in the sentence, I decide what to do. The word I is the subject performing the action the of deciding. So just to be clear, the subject in a sentence is the thing that performs the action. Ikaw yung gumagawa. Whereas the object is the person, thing, or place that is impacted by or involved in the action. So, the I self is a subject pronoun, ikaw yung gumagawa. Tapos yung me as the object pronoun is yung person na nire-refer as. Furthermore, according to James, the I is the thinking, acting, feeling self, while the me is the physical characteristic as well as psychological capabilities that makes who you are. The I self represents the thinking, acting, and feeling self. So, siya yung ego. Ikaw yun. The aspect of the self that is engaged in the moment and actively experiences life. So sa me self naman, it refers to the perceived self, which includes both the physical characteristics, kung yung mga height, weight, skin color, and other bodily attributes, pati yung psychological capabilities, like yung intelligent mo, talents, personality traits, and emotional tendencies. The me is shaped by societal expectations, past experiences, and your understanding of how you fit into the world. So, yung me is nasa-shape siya kung ano mga sinasabi ng nasa paligid mo o kaya yung mga past experiences mo o kung ano yung tingin mo sa sarili mo. So, for example, uh, mag-choose ka ng course sa college and let's say and let's say the me self may say something like, my parents want me to study this course. But when you use the I self, you would say that I really want to study this course. So now if you use the I self, you have the responsibility over your own behavior. You realize that you're the one who make choices and the others are not the one who's going to make the choices for you. So with the I self, you realize that we are capable of making choices for our own lives and that we are responsible for these choices instead of saying that your choice is the product of others' choices. Um, Next, please. Next po. Thank you. So James' further assumption on the self is ito yung features ng I. So meron dito is impulsive, spontaneous, and indeterminate. The I acts instinctively, meaning we don't need to plan about what we do. For example, I will eat, I will walk, I will run. All of these do not need any plan before and is done impulsively. You don't need to plan it beforehand. The I doesn't always follow a set of pattern or behave in a ways determined by past experiences or societal expectations. This enables the creativity and uniqueness by allowing the individual to respond freely to the situation. So, for example, going for a walk on a whim or anything we decide to do without any clear reason or purpose. It reflects the impulsive and spontaneous nature of the I because you're going for a walk or you're doing anything else without having any clear reason or any purpose of it. So, parang ginawa mo lang yung bagay na yun kasi gusto mo lang, walang any proper reason for it. So, ganun yung I self. Non-reflective. The I operates in the moment without self-analysis or overthinking. It is about action and experience. You often realize what the I has done only when you reflect later through the lens of the me. So, sabi dito na hindi mo alam na nagawa mo na pala yung isang bagay without reflecting. So for example, a sudden laugh or an instinctive reaction to a joke. So may realize mo lang na tumawa ka o may reaction ka sa joke na yon once you reflect what you've done through the perspective of me. So last is produces individuality. The I represents the personal freedom and uniqueness. It is the part of the self that distinguishes one person from another. So, for example, an artist creating a new piece without concern for trends or expectations showcases the individuality of I. So, yung artist, gumawa siya ng piece without any concerns sa ano, from society. So he doesn't care if they hate it or any type of reaction. He only does it it because gusto niya yan, and this uniqueness came from his inner self as a person without any external uh, yun. So sa me, the self as an object in the world. So here, structure and determinate part of the self. The me self is the organized, defined part of the self. It consists of roles, values, and characteristics shaped by society and life experiences. So it is predictable and determinate because it reflects all of what we've learned about ourselves through others' perception and our own reflections. So, for example, you see yourself as hardworking because of the feedback from teachers, colleges, or family. Sinasabi nila na hardworking tong bata na to. So, you see yourself, so other example is you see yourself as kind, intelligence because of the people around you telling you that you are kind, you are that kind of person. So, it is predictable na if most of them are saying na you're hardworking, predictable na masasabi mo sa sarili mo na hardworking ka. So, the product of interaction and conscious reflection. So, the me self is developed through social interactions and internalization of how others use us. So, it comes when we reflect our behavior and how we fit into societal norms and expectations. So, for example, after a group presentation, you might reflect on how others see your performance and adjust your perception about yourself, like I was a good speaker or a reporter. So the next is we know that I only through the me. So what does this mean? So the I self serves as the lens through which we understand the I. So parang kanina lang din na example na mal- na yung malalaman mo lang na tumawa ka or may reaction ka sa joke na yun once you analyze it through the lens of me. So while the I is spontaneous and active, tuloy-tuloy siya, doesn't need to reflect. It is only through reflection, yung dami nagre-reflect sa anong ginawa ng I, that we recognize or interpret our own actions. So, for example, you instinctively volunteer to help someone. May nakita ka sa labas. For example, may natumba kasi maraming dala yung nanay. Tapos, tinulungan mo siya instinctively. But later, you realize and reflect that I'm a kind person for doing that. So, when you reflect that, tas sinabi mo sa sarili mo na I'm a kind of person doing that, that is the me self. So, attitudinal change. So, quoting William James himself, sabi niya is, the greatest discovery of my generation is that human beings can alter their lives by altering their attitude of the mind. So, a lot of times we might notice that people have a positive experience when they have a positive attitude. So, your attitude oftentimes sets your expectation, and your expectation dramatically influence your experience. But if you have a negative attitude, then you think your experience is going to be bad, and therefore you expect it to be and will be bad. So parang down spiral na yun kasi ina-expect mo na sa araw na to negative ka, so something bad will happen. So at the end of the day, may bad na ang yayari, and at the end you're going to have a bad experience. So if you check your attitude at the beginning and just realize that you are in control, whatever this thing or your day is going to be good or bad. Now, obviously, di naman araw-araw is mabuti. Meron tayong araw na is just the circumstances in life is just plain bad, and sa day na yon you just have to make the best of the bad situation. So yung attitude natin is nakakapag-affect siya through our lives. If we're positive, then we're going to find something positive throughout our day, even if it's a bad day. So next please. Dito naman is Carl Rogers. So siya ay American psychologist and one of the founders of humanistic psychology, which emphasizes personal growth, free will, and self-actualization. So, sabi dito, according to his theory, the I as the one who acts and decides, while the me is what you think or feel about yourself as an object. So, similar siya sa sinabi ni William James. So, the I is the agent that acts, decides, and experiences. The I self is the you who's doing the actions that exist in the present moment. So, for example, I am blank. I like math, I like studying, playing games, reading, etc. That is the I self. So, the me is the self concept, how you think about or evaluate yourself as an object of experiences. It includes your thoughts, feeling, and attitude about who you are based on your experiences or what people say to you. So, for example, I feel proud of myself for being disciplined, or I think of myself as a kind person. So, that is the me self. The I self reflects what people see or perceives themselves doing in the physical world. So, for example, walking and eating. So, from what I've said earlier, the I self represents the individual as an agent that acts, decides, and experiences in the present moment, engaging in actions and experiences in the physical world. So, yung I self is ikaw yun. Ikaw yun. Decide kung ano yung na-experience mo at the present moment. So, for example, me, nag-represent ako ngayon, right now. Ayun yung I self. So, for example, here is walking and eating. So, I am walking to the park. I am eating lunch. So, these examples shows that I self is actively perceiving and describing one's current actions or what you are doing in the physical world. So, the me self is more subjective and psychological phenomenon. So, sa William James, yung me daw is object, and here naman is more on subjective siya. Subjective means is yung sa sarili mo. So, for example, characterizing oneself as athletic, smart, and cooperative. So, this subjective and psychological phenomenon forms the basis of how we understand ourselves, shaped by personal experiences, feedbacks from others, and societal norms. It's central to Carl Rogers' humanistic theory, which emphasizes the self concept and the need for the balance between one's self image, the me, and the actual experiences, the I. So, sa example na yan, yung athletic, smart, and cooperative. So, sa athletic, for example, I see myself as someone who enjoys sports and stays physically fit. So, here is a subjective ka. Sinasabi mo sa sarili ko, ay sa sarili mo kung ano yung ina-enjoy mo. So, here is ina-enjoy niya yung sports and stays physically fit. So, sometimes we have to be conscious on how does your me self differ from I self. Comparison with your I self and which is more helpful to you. So, sometimes we have to strike the balance between behaving in a way that others want us to behave and behaving in a way that we think what would be the best for us. So you have to balance it out. Kung lagi mong sinusunod yung tingin ng iba, for example, hindi na nagmamatter sa iyo yung kung ano ba tingin mo sa sarili mo, lagi mo na pina-follow yung tingin ng iba. You have to strike balance between those para mabalanse yung self mo. So, self-schema is our organized system or collection of knowledge about who we are. It may also include our interests, work, course, age, name, and physical characteristics. So, as we grow up and adapt, our self-schema also changes. Sabi dito, yung self-schema daw is like a personal blueprint. Isipin nyo na lang na self-schema is a personal blueprint of who we are. It's an organized collection of all the information we have about ourselves. So think of it as a data that includes details like our name, age, physical traits, interests, roles, and even the course we're studying or the work we do. So, and as we grow up and face new experiences and adapt to life's changes, our self-schema also evolves. So, hindi siya static or hindi nagbabago. Nag-evolve din siya when we face the new experience and adapt to what life changes to be. So, for example, nung bata ka, you see yourself as a student who loves astronomy. So, and later in life, you define yourself as a professional when in computer engineering, as a software engineer who helps to solve problems. So, makikita nyo na nag-evolve din yung self-schema. Nung bata ka, gusto mo astronomy, you want to become an astrologist or an astronaut, and later in life, you become a professional in computer engineering. Ganun. So whenever it's through our interest, relationship, or achievements, our self-schema is constantly shaping and being shaped by our experiences. Next, please. Okay. So, example, when we state your first name, even if they are not talking to you, your attention is drawn to them. So, sometimes kapag may mga group of people na nagsasalita tapos narinig mo na nabanggit yung pangalan mo, even if they're not talking to you, your attention will be caught by the group na nagsasalita because your name is a key part of your self-schema, your sense of identity. It is your self-identity. So, your attention will be caught to it. So, sa number 2, if you have provincial knowledge and you hear someone using it, it catches your attention too. Kasi yung provisional knowledge, which includes your cultural background, is the reason na nag-grab yung attention mo kasi part din yun ng self-schema mo. So for example, you're in another country and you hear that someone is speaking your language, Tagalog. So, makakot talaga yung attention mo because nasa iba kang bansa and you see someone na nagsasalita ng language mo. So, sa pangatlong example, if you consider yourself as a book lover, a bookstore may always entice you out of all the other stores in the mall. So, this reflects how your schema influences your preference and action. So, kung kung gusto mo magpasa, it is matik na mako yung attention mo sa isang bookstore because it is part of your self-schema too. So, sabi dito na yung self-schema na-influence yung actions, na-influence yung action mo and your preferences. So, napili mo yung bookstore out of all the other stores. So, the unconditional positive regard or UPR. So, sabi dito, this refers to accepting and supporting another exactly as they are without evaluating or misjudging them. This means valuing a person just as they are, offering a genuine care and empathy regardless of the person's behavior, choices, or circumstances. So, for example, a parent loves and acceptance to their child even if they make a mistake. So, they will still love you for who you are no matter if you hurt them or affects them negatively. So, tinatawag siyang unconditional love din. So, ayun yung UPR. So, another example is a friend who listens to you with empathy and understanding even if you make a mistakes. A friend stands by you during tough times, offering understanding and encouragement without criticizing or trying to change who you are. So, ayun yung example ng UPR. Next po. Yun lang. And balik po kay Miss Garcia. Thank you.
Identity and self-concept. So imagine you're piecing a puzzle together, but instead of a picture, you're creating a portrait of yourself. This puzzle is your identity, a complex combination of who you are, how you see yourself, and how you fit into the world. Identity, think of it as the big picture. It's made up of your personal characteristics, your talents, interests, values, your social roles as a student, employee, and friend, your affiliation to your family, community, clubs, and etc. These elements combine to define who you are. Self concept. This is your internal view of yourself, your own personal reflection. It's what you believe about your qualities, strengths, and weaknesses, and who you are. It's shaped by your experiences, relationships, and how others perceive you. Roles. We all play different roles in our life. Think of the roles you play in your family, at school, in your community. These are what we do as a person to contribute to others and to the community. These roles influence how you behave and interact with others, and they also contribute to your overall identity. The most important thing to remember is that your identity and self-concept are not static. They are dynamic and constantly evolving just like you are. Imagine a piece of clay can be shaped and molded into different forms, but it's still the same clay at its core. The same goes for our identity and self-concept. We may play different roles and have different experiences and learn new things, but at our core, we are still ourselves. So as you journey through life, remember that your identity and self-concept are constantly evolving. Embrace the journey of your self-discovery and allow yourself to grow and change.
Hello, I'm audible. Am I audible?
Yes po.
So let's talk about experiences of the self. Experience of the self refers to the ways individuals perceive and understand themselves, forming the foundation of their personal identity. So this concept in psychology explores how we become aware of ourselves as unique beings and how we categorize our traits. So experiences of the self has two main aspects, which are existential self and categorical self. So next slide. Existential self. So existential self, this awareness typically begins in infancy, around 2 to 3 months, when a child first realizes that they are a separate entity who can influence their surroundings. Example given by crying to get attention. So existential self, basically this is an awareness of that we exist as separate individuals, distinct from the environment and other people. So as it said, it typically begins in infancy, around 2 to 3 months of age. So when babies first recognizes that they are separate entities and can affect their surroundings. So like crying to get attention, like um when they're when they're feeling sad, they're crying, they're hungry, they cry to get their parents' attention. So yes. Next, existential self has three key elements. First is uniqueness. So recognizing oneself as distinct from others. So uniqueness, understanding that we are different from others. Next is agency, understanding that one's action can affect the environment. So in agency, realizing our actions can influence the environment. Next is continuity, realizing that one remains the same individual over time. So continuity is the sense that we remain the same individuals over time. So next is categorical self. Categorical self develops as children grow and start recognizing traits within themselves and others, such as age, gender, and physical characteristics. So categorical self is as we grow, we start to categorize ourselves and others by specific traits. So this includes identifying physical characteristics, so like age, gender, and physical traits or characteristics, like height, and also social roles, such as being a student, friend, or family member, like that. So it has three key elements. First is physical traits, self-identification based on visible characteristics. So physical traits is how we identify based on our appearance or our physical appearance. Social roles and group membership, recognizing oneself as part of certain social groups. So example given, family, school, religious, or ethnic groups. And next, personality traits or abilities. Acknowledging unique preferences, skills, and personal qualities. So personal traits, we acknowledge our inner qualities, like example given, being kind, being creative, being like that, being brave, or something like that. Next slide, please. Now we will talk about self-concept. So self-concept refers to the way individuals perceive, understand, and evaluate themselves. It's a collection of beliefs and attitudes about oneself, shaped by personal experiences, relationships, and social interactions. So self-concept includes different components, each representing how we see ourselves or aspire ourselves to be. So self-concepts has three main components. First is self-image or real self. Next is ideal self. And third is ought self or self-esteem and self-worth. In self-image, it's how we actually see ourselves, also known as the real self. This includes our physical appearance, personality, traits, abilities, and roles in lives. So in self-image, this is the way we actually see ourselves, which includes our physical appearance, our personality traits like that, and our abilities and life roles. Self-image. So in our self-image, we may or may not align with how others see us, and it can be influenced by personal experiences, feedback from others, and social comparison. Second one is ideal self. So ideal self represents how we aspire to be, our perfect version of ourselves. So this includes the qualities, achievements, and lifestyle we desire, often shaped by personal goals, values, and societal standards. So a gap between the real self and the ideal self can motivate self-improvement, but may also lead to feelings of inadequacy if the gap feels too wide. So in ideal self, basically, um, ideal self, ideal self is it it motivates personal growth, but may also lead to feelings of inadequacy if the gap is too large. So yeah, let's proceed to ought self. Ought self, the person we believe we should be. So based on expectation from ourselves and others, including moral or social obligation. Ought self is often relates to our sense of self-esteem and self-worth. So self-esteem is the evaluation of our self-worth based on how we closely meet the standards of the ought self. Self-worth reflects our intrinsic value as a person, independent of achievement or external validation. So yeah, that's all.
Um, Self-actualization is the need for personal growth and lifelong development. It represents the highest level in Maslow's hierarchy of needs. This concept was developed by psychologist Abraham Maslow. Achieving self-actualization means reaching one's full potential as an individual. So, self-actualization is the highest level in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and it's all about reaching your full potential. When you achieve self-actualization, you're at your best, living with purpose and fully realizing your abilities. Next, we have self-esteem and self-worth. Self-esteem refers to how much we like, accept, or approve of ourselves. It involves an evaluation of our own worth and can be positive or negative. Self-esteem is how we view ourselves and how much we like, accept, or approve of who we are. If we have high self-esteem, we feel confident, but if it's low, we might feel insecure or unsure of ourselves. Next is self-worth. Self-worth is how much we value ourselves. It is related to our overall sense of value and belief in our inherent worth as individuals.
Self-worth is similar, but it's more about the value we place on ourselves just for being who we are. It's that belief that we are valuable, regardless of what we accomplish or how others sees us. Having a strong sense of self-worth helps us stay grounded and resilient, especially when things get tough. That's all.
Hi guys. So, as you know, our topic is about psychology, and again, this is a study of human mind and everything within. So, actually, humans are comprised of, well, mind, and we do decisions with this to make actions, certain actions such as gathering information, exploring options, considering risks, and etc. And with these actions, actually, we are influenced by other individuals as well or the society itself. So we have here your social comparison theory. And yes, likas ng mga tao ang mangumpara ng sarili. So we have two types of social comparison. We have downward self-comparison and upward self-comparison. All right, next slide, please. So for the downward social comparison, as we see here on this slide, we create a positive self-concept by comparing ourselves with those who are worse off than us, and this builds our self-esteem and some sort of superiority towards other. So this might be positive and negative in some ways, because well, negative because it might give us the narcissistic vibe, but then again, for this downward social comparison, it's just a comparison that we usually do as humans whenever we see someone who are, well, not on our level, or more like, well, downgrade sa kung ano yung ano natin, like kung ano yung standard natin. So, for example, you're walking on the street and nakakita ka ng someone na homeless. Somewhat nafi-feel natin na we're kind of a lucky person kasi meron tayong tinitirhan, meron tayong bahay, meron tayong mga nakakain. And that's an example of downward social comparison. We create a positive self-image of ourselves by seeing someone who have some not on our level kind of living. And for our upward social comparison, we compare ourselves to someone better than us. So kabaliktaran siya ng downward social comparison. This might be a trigger for motivation, which would be a positive effect of this comparison. But then again, it can also cause us to, well, realize our insecurities, and it might also lower our self-esteem. And we can also have other negative self-perceptions for this. So, eto, medyo applicable to sa mga inggitera nating ano. Kasi like, sometimes we compare ourselves, especially with our generations, we compare ourselves with someone or something na very, well, not reachable for our self-standing. Like, for example, we aim for something na kailangan mas well-off tayo when it comes to wealth, or we look sa mga Instagram, social medias, and we're like saying na, damn, sana ganito din yung face cards ko. So for this upward social comparison, meron din siyang positive and negative effect. But for our generation, we usually come with a negative effect since gusto nating may pinapatunayan tayo. But then again, this can also cause us inspiration, motivation to do something better, and might as well i-reach yung standard na nakikita natin. Next slide, please. So, kaakibat nitong social comparison is actually self-evaluation maintenance theory. It is a theoretical framework that mainly describes human self-perception and self-esteem, and it's always comprised by the influence of comparison and reflection. So, then again, we are humans comprised of minds, and with these comparisons, we usually self-evaluate our again ourselves, And with these self-perceptions, we base ourselves from other individuals. So again, we are who we are based on how we see ourselves in other individuals. So then again, we are all influenced in some ways by other selves kahit na meron din tayong sarili nating decisions and whatnot. Next slide, please. So in the self-evaluation maintenance theory, we can feel threatened sometimes when someone outperforms us. So this is usually true, especially when that person is close to us. And in this case, we usually react in three ways. So again, this self-evaluation maintenance theory, we can see that especially when we see someone na parang mas magaling sa atin sa bagay na alam nating magaling tayo. Like for example, magaling tayo sa drawing or we think na we're the top of the class. But when we're at the university na, parang nafe-feel natin na we're somewhat not that special. So for these three ways, how we usually react. So first, we distance ourselves from that person or redefine our relationship with them. And some will resort to the silent treatment, change of friends, while some may also redefine by being closer to that person, hoping that some association may give them some kind of acknowledgement also. So for this reaction sa self-evaluation maintenance theory, again, kapag kunwari may nakita tayo na mas magaling sa atin, minsan nilalayuan natin sila kasi nga, again, that's us being insecure. Pero sometimes, we usually take it as a benefit for ourselves para, I don't know, for the clout. Hindi kasi, mas nafe-feel natin na we belong on that level when we usually be with that person as well. Gets niyo yun? So for the second reaction, we have here consider the importance of the aspect or skill in which you were outperformed. If you got beaten in a drawing competition, you might think drawing is not really for you, and you will find a hobby where you could excel, thus preserving self-esteem. So kanina, we stay out of that person or we be closing that person para ma-maintain natin yung kung ano man yung gusto nating patunayan. For the second reaction, actually, nagi-give up tayo. So, kung iniisip natin na matalino nga tayo sa class and then pagdating niyo ng college, parang naging putyo-putyo na lang kayo, parang dito sa reaction na 'to, pinagpapatuloy niyo na lang or pinaninindigan niyo na lang yung pagiging putyo-putyo niyo. And, then again, we look for something else that we can excel. This is the kind of reaction on this second part. And for the last part, strengthen or resolve to improve that certain aspect of ourselves. Instead of quitting drawing, you might join seminars, practice more often, read books about it, and add some elements in your drawings that makes it unique. Among others, achieving your goal through hard work, and it may also increase your self-esteem too. So, out of all these three reactions, this is the really positive reaction that we can actually have for this theory. Kasi, again, once we are outperformed by someone with a certain thing, for this reaction, actually, mas pinagbubutihan natin siya. Mas may pinapatunayan tayo, kaya natin siya pinaghihirapan. Again, joining seminars is a big help for improving some skills on ourselves. So for this three self-evaluation maintenance theory, this is how we maintain our self-esteems within ourselves and also to gain more confidence between ourselves. So next slide, please. Ayan. So after that, again, we compare ourselves. So for these comparisons, we are actually having two selves parang nafa-factor or naapektuhan nung influence na yun. So according to Carver and Schleifer, 1981, we have two kinds of self. And these are the private self and the public self. So the private self, ito si ano, who is self? Charit. So the inner thoughts and feelings of a human being. So Si private self daw, ito yung tayo sa loob na tayo lang yung nakakaalam. So it is the awareness within oneself that others might not know. And this includes our feelings, our personalities, our interests na we don't usually, we don't show sa other people kasi then again, it's just an awareness within us. So pinapatunayan lang natin siya sa sarili natin. Then for the public self, it is the public image an individual wants to portray to better suit itself and adapt for social purposes. So with this, dito pumapasok yung social standards. So we fit dun sa social standard na yun para hindi tayo maging outlier sa society. And this is what public self is all about. Ina-alter natin kung ano yung private self natin in some way just to certainly fit what is the standard or kung ano yung parang mas acceptable sa society. And that's all. I'm going to give the stage to Miss Guerrero. Thank you.
Now, as for self-consciousness, this happens when we become overly aware of ourselves. And then we start worrying about how others see us or how they judge us. Kumbaga, it's like we are constantly being under a spotlight. We become overly cautious of our surroundings, which then becomes very overwhelming. When we are aware of ourselves, we tend to think about how our actions affect others and how it follows social rules. In group settings, we can lose that sense of individuality. Now, this term is called de-individuation. This happens when we feel less personally responsible for our actions because we try to blend into the crowd or in the group. In this state, we may start acting in ways that we wouldn't normally, like behaving more impulsively, taking risks, or doing things we know are wrong. We are influenced more by the behavior of those around us rather than our own values and self-control. The bigger the group, the easier it is to feel anonymous and less accountable for our actions, which makes the individuation more likely. Now, to continue, there are two ways self-consciousness can direct our focus. Looking outside. This is when we compare ourselves to others. We might try to fit in, follow trends, or aspire to be like people we admire. While this can motivate us to improve, it can also make us feel insecure if we don't control and balance it out. Second is looking inside. This is when we reflect on our true desires, values, and goals. Kumbaga, we become who we really are. We don't try to pretend. And that's the gist of self-consciousness. Next is
Good day po. Before po ako mag-start, naririnig niyo po ako?
yes po.
Okay. As we delve into the psychology of the self, we think, who are the proponents who accomplish work in this line of work? One of which is Sigmund Freud. But who is Sigmund Freud, you ask? Sigmund Freud, born in May 6, 1856, in Freiburg, Moravia, Austrian Empire, is an Austrian neurologist and founder of psychoanalysis, commonly referred to as the father of modern psychology. He revolutionized the concept of how we think and deal with mental health conditions. These mental health conditions can either be from stress, anxiety, or even depression. Next slide po. Psychoanalysis. What is psychoanalysis? Psychoanalysis is a method of treating patients with mental disorder, closely encapsulating the psychoanalytic theory emphasizing unconscious mental process and sometimes described as a depth of psychology. Simply speaking, it is a type of therapy and theory wherein it aims to help people gain understanding about themselves and how their past influences affect their present self. This is psychoanalysis. And another, it is based on the assumption that humans or individuals have unconscious thoughts, memories, urges, feelings, and desires which may result to clinical symptoms and mental disorders. Simply speaking, another no psychoanalysis is like it aims to know your both your unconscious and conscious self. Yun lang ang psychoanalysis. And another note, Sigmund Freud also proposed that the human personality suggests that the mind is divided into three parts: the id, ego, and superego. These three parts work together to form complex human behavior. Next slide po. Let's start with id. Id, and as we know, is the primitive nature of our mind that only operates simply fulfilling world's bounded pleasures. This includes sexual urges, hunger, and thirst for power. Ang example po nito is when you urge for money and power, such as mga corrupt politics, I guess. Next is ego, commonly known as the conscious part of our mind, wherein it often reminds us of the reality in the world and helps us align I's desire to reality. It is intended to be the reality checker. So, as a mediator of the three consciousness, the ego helps constrain the I's thirst for many, let's say, overexemplified na pleasure. And lastly is superego, which is generally operates as the moral standards of our mind. It helps us distinguish what is right from wrong. This is the conscious mind that is like um, the the morality of a person in order to depict what is right from wrong, in order to avoid anything evil that might occur. Next slide, please. Sigmund Freud also discussed about his perspective on socialization. Freud saw that socialization as both an external and internal process where societal norms are internalized in the psyche, shaping identity through a balance between personal desire and social expectation. Like the discussed kanina na, do you call this? The experience of the self. This is similar to how Sigmund Freud views the socialization, wherein our expectation of society of us also depicts what what will be the me right now, and also our personal desires also helps contribute in order to change us. Another is the theory of on mental disorder and dreams. He proposed that dreams offer insights into the unconscious mind, which contains hidden desires, fears, and impulses that shapes behavior and personality. He saw dream analysis as a way of to uncover these underlying motivations. Simply speaking, this is just about how dreams affect us as a person and how it shapes us as a person in the physical world. And next slide, Paul. And as for his view on human nature, Sigmund Freud, human's nature includes core impulses like seeking pleasure, love, avoiding pain, and showing aggression, which can have positive or negative impacts depending on their effects on individual and society. This is like the three parts of the mind, where the id is the primitive state of our mind, the one that gives us the urges, the material urges. This is similar to how Sigmund Freud views human nature. On another note, he also views human nature as an instinctive being, where at that most human behaviors comes from unconsciousness, which is why Sigmund Freud believes that the goal of life is to reduce reduce tension and gain pleasure. Next slide po. Now we move on to another presenter.
Okay, now as for true self versus false self, inside each of us, there are two wolves. One is good and the other is bad. Which one wins? The one that you feed the most. This idea or metaphor helps explain the difference between true self and the false self. As a whole, this is a very self-explanatory topic. Mapagpanggap na ikaw at yung totoong ikaw. So, your true self is the real you, the version of yourself that's honest and genuine, the person you were before everyone or everything around you honed you how to act or who to be. It's where your natural self and values come from. Next is for false self. It's like wearing a mask to fit in. It's the version of you that changes to meet other people's expectations or societal norms. This act roots from whether you want to avoid conflict, gain approval, or simply because you just want to blend in. While this can be helpful sometimes, relying on it too much can bury your real self. The false self is highly connected to being a people pleaser. Due to the fear of disappointing people and the fear of rejection, you tend to mirror or rumble yourself up just to reach their expectations. To sum true and false self up, the only key is balance. You should feed your true self by staying authentic while still following what feels right for you. At the same time, be mindful not to let the false self take over completely. It helps us stay real and focused on what really matters to us, rather than us constantly chasing societal expectations. So, to summarize,
To summarize everything, psychology explored the deep and complex aspect of individuals, looking at how our inner thoughts and outward action interact to shape our identities. Early theories like William James and Carl Rogers pointed out that we have two parts of ourselves, the subjective I and the objective me. Carver expanded on this by talking about the private self and the public self, focusing on how we balance our true selves with what society expects from us. The difference between true self, which our natural essence, and the false self, which is the image we adopt to fit, makes us think about how real our identities are in the face of social pressures. Through these ideas, psychology provides deep understanding of how our identities form, encouraging us to reflect on how our inner thoughts and external interaction defines who we are. And that's all po. Thank you.
so for the quiz po, we will be sending it to the GC na lang. Thank you po for listening.
Okay po. Thank you po everyone for your avid participation in this meeting. So we could all leave now po. Thank you po everyone.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye po.